Hi everyone, my name's Imogen. I'm from Course Report. We are a resource for researching which coding bootcamp is right for you. We have a directory of different coding schools, we've got loads of reviews, we have a blog section, and we've done a lot of interviews with founders, instructors, students, and grads from coding bootcamps. So we're here to help you work out which bootcamp is going to suit your needs. You can compare and contrast them, and you can also use our Get Matched feature to see which one actually suits exactly what you need. So today I'm excited to be speaking with David and Jeff from New York Code and Design Academy. They both studied web development, but David studied part-time and Jeff studied full-time. So today we're going to be talking about both of their experiences, and I'll get them to compare what it was like studying part-time versus full-time. So David and Jeff, thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. So maybe we could start off and you guys can tell me what your backgrounds were before you decided that you wanted to learn to code. David, do you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. Prior to attending the boot camp at New York Code and Design Academy, I had recently completed an MBA program at the University of Pittsburgh. I had worked for a year in Pittsburgh at a real estate company. And then I transitioned back to New York City, where I currently work right now full-time for an ad technology company called Zaxis, where I handle programmatic accounts with all of Group M's clients in North America and some international accounts.
Awesome, that's really cool. And Jeff, what about you? What's your background?
Well, I was a college student at Wake Forest University. But I got really sick, so I had to withdraw. And so I spent around maybe 6 months just working, just to get myself back on my feet. And after I did, I was just searching for a coding bootcamp, which landed me at New York Code and Design Academy. And now currently I work as a developer at the McCann Erickson agency, which is also an ad agency. So yeah, that's where I'm here now.
Awesome. Oh, congrats on your job. That's so cool. And I'm interested in why you two particularly decided to go to New York Code and Design Academy, because I know there are a few other coding boot camps. David, perhaps you could tell me about your kind of research process and why you chose this particular boot camp.
Sure. I would say the most important thing I looked at when I was evaluating all the other boot camps was something that was flexible, being that I was working full-time. I needed to find that right balance, knowing that it was going to be pretty difficult going to class 3 times a week, especially working full time. And after speaking to the admissions department at New York Code and Design Academy, basically the schedule that they had set forth for the part-time program really aligned with what I was looking for. It gave me a lot of flexibility with work. You know, I was able to work later if need be and still be able to attend classes. One of the features that they had was they recorded all of the classes that they offered. So, you know, if by chance I wasn't able to attend because I had to go out of town for business or, you know, something that came up during the week, I was still able to get the full lecture later that day, which was really great for me to have that safety net. And in addition to having the flexibility, I would say the tuition as well was really attractive. It seemed like a lot of the boot camps were generally, like $15,000 to $20,000. And, being that I've already gone to graduate school, I have enough student loans to begin with, and I don't want to burden myself with that. And New York Code and Design Academy was very, very affordable while still maintaining the same level of quality of instruction. So it was an easy solution for me.
That's awesome. Cool. That sounds like lots of really good reasons. And then, Jeff, what were your reasons for choosing New York Code and Design Academy?
Well, I actually agree a lot with the financial part of it. It was really one of the most affordable boot camps when I was comparing all of my options. Also, I did take a visit there, and I met with Julie, one of the admissions officers there at the time. And when I was just walking around and just seeing what people were doing and seeing how people were learning, it was felt just right, I guess. And I didn't really know much about boot camps at the time, so I couldn't really make a whole bunch of like logical point by point comparisons, but I just went with, what I could afford. and what my time was looking like, I wasn't really doing anything. So that's why I really went with the full-time, and just being around human beings. I just wanted to learn a new skill, and that's why I came to New York Code and Design Academy.
Awesome. That's really cool. And then I know David had a few reasons why he wanted to study part-time, but Jeff, did you have any particular reasons why you wanted to study full-time?
Well, I did want to get an education, even if it wasn't at like a four-year institution at the point. And at the time when I decided, you know, I just need to get myself up and need to do something, need to learn something, might as well just go all in. And that's why I decided, that was the main reason why I decided to go full-time with the New York Code and Design Academy.
Awesome, awesome. And then did either of you think about going back to college and studying computer science at college rather than a boot camp?
Oh, do you want to start, or? Oh, okay.
You go ahead. That's fine.
Okay. Well, I was thinking a lot about whether if I would go back for a computer science education, but a lot of what I was researching about, it was, and a lot of computer science grads I did talk to, they said that these four-year institutions didn't really give them the skills they needed to go to the job market and really be able to perform at the level they needed to, or even be able to break into the industry. So when I compared, you know, a 3-month program that was catered towards, you know, breaking into the industry and perform well in the industry versus 4 years and more student loans, and, you know, coming out and not being at the same point that I needed to be, it just seemed that to be the right choice to me to go to a boot camp instead. So
that makes sense. And David, did you consider going back to college for computer science?
After evaluating my options, it just didn't really seem feasible to go back for an undergraduate degree again in this particular field. I needed something rapidly, and the boot camp was really the vehicle for that. I needed to learn as much as I could right away, and going at the pace of a 4-year institution just would have really hindered me, being that I'm so, you know, I have so many years of professional experience under my belt. That's, you know, starting back at square zero with an undergraduate degree wasn't the best option for me. And that's why I really enjoyed the curriculum at New York Code and Design Academy, because they prepared you to jump in day one, you know, almost like a trade school. We're going to teach you how to literally do one thing, and by the end or the conclusion of your studies, you're going to know how to do that. And that's what employers are looking for. So you can either know what you're doing or you don't, and they prepare you to know what you're doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, it's a long time to go back to college for. And then I'm interested in the application process for applying to New York Code and Design Academy. I'm not sure if they might have differed for either of you. So maybe I can just get you both to explain and we can see if there are any differences. So Jeff, maybe you can start and tell me what the application process was like for you.
Well, the application process, it was really easy. It was really simple. It was, I think, from what I remember, it was the first application, or the first part of it, was 3 personal statement questions of why I wanted to go, I guess what my experience was with coding, and just a little bit about myself. And after I submitted that, I was at an interview, and the interview process, it was actually really unique, because instead of having instead of me being required to know something in order to take sort of like a technical interview, it was the admissions officer I worked with actually gave me what I needed to know. For example, like a few Linux commands, or like a few, I guess, math concepts, and then she applied certain problems to see how I would go about them. So it wasn't, the test and the application wasn't really about, I guess, what I knew or what my experience was. It was more of how I was able to go about solving problems, and how it was, you know, whether or not I was a fit for a boot camp. So that's what I really appreciated about that, given that I didn't really know anything about coding. So.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. And then David, was your application for the part-time program similar?
It was somewhat similar. I believe their approach for the part-time program was really demonstrating that you had the initiative to finish the program, being that you're going to balance working full-time while going to school as well. So, along the same lines as Jeff, I did what I could to prepare for the interview. So when I was looking at the other boot camps, obviously having the technical interview and knowing some basic commands will always help in these interviews. For the New York Code Design Academy, it wasn't really required. Like Jeff had spoken to, they just want to know your thought process and how you approach a problem, how you identify, what issues are affecting the problem and how you can come up with a solution. So I filled out the online form for the submission or the interview questions, and I came in for an in-person interview. And I think in maybe 2 or 3 days later, I had received an email letting me know that I'd received admission, and I put down a deposit, and I believe I started the boot camp the following week. So it was a rather quick process. But again, that just really points to the flexibility of this program, and it was great. It was really just perfect timing for me, and I'm glad that I did it.
Cool, that's awesome. That's so cool how you were able to start straight away. Very cool. And I'm interested in what your cohorts were like. Jeff, maybe you could tell me about your cohort at the full-time program. Like, how many people were there, and was it quite a diverse group of people in terms of gender and race and kind of backgrounds? Yeah,
it was probably the most diverse, I guess, group of people I've ever been around. We had, I guess, 20 students, I think, around that. And we had, fathers with like 3 kids. And we also had, people going to grad school, it was I want to say it's a pretty even split between women and men at the time. And as well as it was in terms of I guess race diversity, it was pretty, I guess, spread around the board. It was really going out into the world and just meeting everybody, but in like a little microcosm of everyone wants to learn how to code. And so that's what I really appreciated about that, instead of I guess going to a school where it's just one group of people and just one perspective about different progress levels in life, so to speak. And yeah, so it was just really everybody was there. And because I was in a full-time program, we were just stuck with each other for around 8 to 10 hours a day, depending on how long we decided to stay after class. So we all became super, super close. Even now, I still keep in contact with a lot of my classmates. We've become really good friends, and we've all just really support each other throughout this whole process of, from day one, whether or not we didn't get a certain concept in the language, to, even after we all graduated and, we all started helping each other with job searches and oh, here's an opportunity, I think you would fit based on, how well I know you. Sorry, based on how well I know you. So yeah, that's my cohort. I guess that's all I have to say. But.
Awesome. That's so nice that you formed such a strong connection with your cohort mates. Very cool. And then David, what was your cohort like? How many people and what kind of diversity and backgrounds did you see?
Sure. Our cohort was much more intimate. There was only 6 of us. So it was actually a really great ratio to have from instructor to students. And additionally, we had a TA as well that for most of the time was attending class with us. So really, I mean, you received a lot of attention. So if you ran into a hurdle, you had the TA or the teacher there immediately to help you circumvent that problem. And in terms of diversity, again, like Jeff had spoken to, extremely diverse. I think it was 2 women and 4 men. We were all from totally different backgrounds, which I think will really empower anybody that attends a boot camp when you have that level of diversity, because you're not intimidated. If everybody comes from a background with mathematics or engineering or something along those lines, you might feel intimidated if you don't have that type of curriculum in your background. But everyone I attended school with didn't have that. I mean, they were very, very diverse. A few were entrepreneurs. Some worked for civil jobs. I believe one was a waiter at one point. And really having that network of people that are all jumping in at the same time into an entire industry that they've never had background before, it builds a great bond amongst your classmates and with your instructor. And you're all working towards a common goal with a diverse background. So I really can't speak to how great it was to have those people as my peers and to help each other along the process.
That's so awesome. And then were most of your classmates, David, did they have full-time jobs like you?
Yes, I believe 5 out of the 6 all had full-time jobs at that time. And the one that didn't, she was just a stay-at-home mom. She was actually got pregnant during our class and had the child, so she was very busy with that. So and she still was one of the best people that we had in our class. She did extremely well. So it really was a great program.
I'm interested in the schedule and the structure of the boot camps, like how they differed. So Jeff, maybe you could tell me about the kind of schedule and structure of the full-time boot camp, and maybe give me an example of a typical day there.
From what I remember, a typical day we would start off with a lecture about a certain concept that the teacher wanted to teach us, and then we would immediately go and try to apply that. Like they would give us like a prompt based on like, okay, now that you've learned this, let's see if you can build this. And not only that, it was what can you use from what you've previously learned and also apply it to make what you're building better or more applicable to the real world. And yeah, and then it would sort of alternate between those two, which was like, okay, theory and then practice, and just very close together and hand in hand throughout the whole program.
Okay, cool. And then what was your like schedule to like hours when you were studying?
So class times would be, I think, from 10 to 6. And after that, what if we didn't get anything, we would just stay after with the teacher, or we would just have our own, I guess, little study groups in order to complete our assignments, or just to talk about what we didn't get, what we did get, and just to help out other students as well. So I think maybe the full day could range from 8 hours if you just went to class and then just left, or it could even be like 10 to 12 hours based on how long you decided to stay after, or how much effort you wanted to put in. So yeah.
Awesome, cool. And then David, what about you? What was the kind of structure of your day? Like maybe you can also give me an example of what a typical day was like.
Sure. Our schedule was class on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6:30 to around 10 usually, and on Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 or 3 p.m. And like Jeff, the curriculum was laid out in the same idea. We'd go through the first maybe quarter or half of class speaking about a topic or a framework, and how it applies to to be used in the type of program that we planned on building. And the latter half of the class is where we'd work hands-on on a project. And at the conclusion of the class, we'd be given an assignment to use what we learned in class that time and build something that was similar to what we had constructed in class, but slightly different and catered more to your own taste of something that you wanted. And then we would revisit that on the following class and talk about any problems that we had, or any discoveries that we had, or something new that we wanted to add into the program.
Cool. And David, I think you did already mention that you had an instructor and a mentor for those 6 students. And Jeff, I'm interested in how many instructors or mentors you had there at the full-time program.
So we had 1 instructor, 1 teaching assistant, and every student was assigned a mentor. So I was assigned to the great John Wolf. He's really he was a really great guy. In terms of the teacher, I had Orlando, and my teaching assistant was Horatio. So all three of them were just, I guess, did their job and really just built upon the program and the students as well. So yeah.
That's great. And then did the part-time and full-time students ever interact with each other at any point? Like, did you ever meet each other or work on anything together?
I would say that there's a common area in our facility where everyone sort of sits either before class or after class, or if they decide to just come in if they're having issues with something they're working on. And there's a lot of interaction there between the students. There wasn't anything really formal where they combined both of us, because I think we were operating on sort of two different schedules. By the time I'd come in, most of the full-time students were already gone for the day. But during the weekend, there was always just loads of people sitting in the common area working on their own unique projects. So if you ever were stuck, I mean, I even still have access now. I can go back anytime I want, which is great. And, ask and shout out loud, does anybody here work with JavaScript, or does anybody here work on Node or Express or React? And people do. They'll raise their hands and they'll help you out, which is great. That's the best thing about this community.
That's really cool. That's nice. And I'm interested in how you each feel like New York Code and Design Academy prepared you for job hunting. Jeff, maybe you can start and tell me what kind of prep you got for that.
So I think maybe right at the end of the program, we had like a sort of meet and greet with employers. And that was, like the staff worked really hard in terms of like reaching out to companies and reaching out to different representatives of different companies, and all just to bring in to, I guess, show us off and show, what we could do and how we could contribute to their company or the job market. And I think within 2 days after graduating, I already received like 3 offers or interviews. Well, I guess that's like not including interviews. And within a week, I was already working at a startup. And so I guess that's sort of like the higher level, I guess the infrastructure that they have there for students. In terms of specific people, Crystal, who's the head of our career services, is absolutely amazing. Like I don't know how much higher I can speak of her, but she really looked out for me in terms of the job market. For example, like right after, I guess a couple months after I was working at the startup unfortunately went under, and I was, I guess, stuck unemployed, and didn't really have much. I didn't have a degree or even much work experience, but she really put in the effort to, I guess, find jobs that she felt were a good fit for me. Really took like, I really took way too much time of hers that I actually deserved, I guess. But she actually ended up helping me, get into where I'm at now. And objectively, I was a hard sell, like to really anything. But she really came through and pulled through. And so that's just, I guess, the testament of how strong the career services are at New York Code and Design Academy compared to, I guess, other schools. So.
That's great. It sounds like you had such a positive experience. That's so cool. And then, David, what was your kind of experience? What kind of preparation did you get for career services and things like that?
Similar to Jeff, at the conclusion of our program, Crystal had scheduled for 3 individuals that worked full-time as professional developers to come in as a meet and greet, where we could ask them questions, not only about their experiences, but their trajectory and how they came to be where they were. And also, they did a really great job of explaining to us the interview process that we would expect to have when we start transitioning to hopefully full-time programming roles. And Crystal really, she does do the best job possible to help you out with anything, with, you know, even just meeting somebody or anyone in her network, let alone trying to set you up for interviews. And one thing I would point to is they really hammer home the fact that it comes down to networking. That's the single most important thing. You know, as much as applying online is always great, and that's the traditional route, they'll do their best to introduce you to people, and that's really where you're going to find your best opportunity to get the roles that you're looking for, or at least learn more about the roles that you're looking for.
Oh, and if I also may add, it's also just not people who, I guess their role is career services. I actually picked up a lot of, I guess, gems from other instructors and other students as well. Like I guess indirectly. Like for example, my instructor Orlando, he didn't necessarily like play the same role that Crystal didn't, like, I guess literally putting me into a company. But a lot of the time that he took to really explain to me how the real world is, I guess what it takes to succeed when I get the job as a programmer, and what to do to, I guess, move up, and what to look out for, what skills to work on. That's what I also found, you know, very valuable as well. So I guess thank you, Orlando and Crystal. If you ever see this, I really do owe you guys a lot. So
that's great. And Jeff, you mentioned about the startup you were working for, and then it sounds like you have another job now. Can you tell me a bit about that?
So right now I'm working as a junior dev in the mechanics and ad agency. I work on their production department. So I guess after all the creatives are done thinking of ideas, they kind of give it to us to build it out in the digital world. That's where I was placed. So it's extremely fast paced, and just always constantly new things coming in. And I guess the reason why I guess I've survived so long as I have in the company is because of the infrastructure that was in place at the new Code Design Academy that actually set me up to succeed in an environment like that. It was, I guess, not only the theoretical points that I was taught based on, you know, just how like frameworks work and, you know, how web pages work, and, you know, good coding practices, but as well as like just, you know, other like job tips from Orlando or job tips from Crystal in order to just really do my job. So yeah.
That's great. And David, I know you only just graduated last month, but what are your plans now? Are you job hunting, or what are you up to?
Yes, I am beginning the job hunt, you know, after figuring things out at work, and making sure I can easily transition out of there, which is something I need to tie up. But I'm starting to get in full ramp up mode, looking for a position. Just want to make sure that it's the right role, and that I'm still able to bring my professional experience that I have, you know, working at the ad agency, and staying within that industry. So, you know, it's been very exciting. I've been in contact with a lot of recruiters. I met with one a few days ago for lunch, where, you know, they basically said, where do you want to work? Because there's no greater job in demand right now than a programmer. So it's really great to have that flexibility at your disposal, where you can literally pick and choose where you want to work based on the skill set. And that's what I'm most excited about. And that's what really made me want to attend New York Code and Design Academy, because having this skill set just puts you in demand, you know, above everyone else. And everyone I speak to, I tell them all the time, you know, this will probably be the best decision that you'll ever make, at least in the next 10 to 20 years, just the way the job markets are. It just gives you so much opportunity, gives you so much leverage. There's nothing else like it. And everyone should consider doing it if they ever thought about doing it.
Yeah, so I was wondering what maybe Jeff, you can go first for this one. I'm just wondering what's been the biggest challenge or roadblock in your journey to learning to code?
I guess I don't really know how other way to answer it, but it was just learning to code. It was just so different than anything I've ever done in my life. Like throughout most of my life, I was a very like liberal, artsy, kind of abstract thinking, whatever. Like, I wasn't a very technical person. I didn't really do very super well in like math or science classes. So just coming into, I guess, a field of study that was just so, just so foreign from anything I've ever even seen before. And that was, I guess, that was just my biggest challenge. Just being able to get it, so to speak. So, yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to code. It looks really difficult. And then David, what about you? What was your sort of biggest challenge or roadblock when you were learning to code?
I would say the three biggest issues when it comes to taking on this type of initiative is, number one is time, two is having discipline, and three is having the right mindset. For time, this might apply more to people in the part-time program, but the work-life balance, if you're working all day, a long day, and you still have to go to class, and it's fine to attend class 3 times a week, but that leaves you 3 or 4 other days where you have to spend that time working on what you learned in class. You can't stop doing it. So you really have to make sure that you set time aside to practice this, and that comes with the discipline factor, which I was speaking to, where the only way you're going to learn and code, and the quickest way you're going to learn to code, is you have to write code. You can watch as many tutorials as you want, and you can read about it as much as you want, but you'll never learn more than when you try to build something yourself and you run into problems and you have to find solutions. And when you can't turn to other people, your only real solution is trial and error. And there's no greater instructor than trial and error. And lastly, I would say mindset is probably the most important of those three. Being myself, I never came from a background of engineering or programming. So this is all new to me. And, there'll be times during your class where you're filled with loads of self-doubt. You feel like you're not understanding something, and you kind of want to give up. And I can't urge people enough that's a common feeling that you're going to have, and you just have to power through that, and you have to kind of believe in yourself that you can get through it. And I promise you, you will get through it. And it'll constantly happen like that. It's a constant roller coaster where you feel like you don't understand something, and you have to continue to keep working at it. And I promise you, it will click. You just have to believe in yourself and have to keep pushing forward.
Right, yeah, that's all really good stuff. Yeah, just my last question now. Well, what's the kind of one piece of advice you would give to someone who's thinking about applying for a coding bootcamp? Jeff, maybe you can go first.
One piece of advice, it's, I guess, keep in mind that it is a bootcamp, and it is very, very intense. So like whether you're doing full-time or part-time, and I guess that type of dedication is something that you need to be ready for. And also, well, I guess like David said, you do have to find a way to balance it, and you do have to find a way to, I guess, effectively deal with the inevitable feeling of, I don't know what I'm doing, which is something that everyone and anyone is going to feel, no matter in what profession you're doing. And also, I guess the second, I'm sorry, I know you said one thing, but I feel like this sort of goes hand in hand, which is to, I guess, be prepared to, well, it's to learn on yourself, to learn by yourself. And because the reason I say that is these programs are for only a couple of months, and no matter what you do, or no matter how, I guess, intellectually gifted someone is, a couple of months is not going to teach you everything you need to know to succeed, or everything you need to know to even program. But I guess what I guess what the student does need to decide is which program they feel is going to guide them the most in the best direction within those 3 months. I guess what course or what period of like, I guess what school will orient them best towards being a good programmer or being a successful programmer. So New York Code and Design Academy did that for me. Obviously they weren't going to teach me everything about Ruby or JavaScript in 3 months, even if we did it 24 hours a day. But they really did set me on a good path based on the mindset of how to learn, the mindset of how to approach problems, and as well as putting me in the right direction of going into a career, instead of just here's what go and do what you need. No, it's like they will look out for you and they will make sure that you don't stray or go away and set yourself up for failure. So yeah.
Awesome. And then David, what one piece of advice would you give to someone considering doing a coding bootcamp?
The one piece of advice that I would give is don't hesitate. If this is something that you really think that you want to do, don't waste any time. Don't sit at your job and think, well, I'll apply at the next round, or I'll apply next year when I'm ready. You're never going to be fully ready. Just do it. Just go on and fill out the application and go and do it. I promise you won't regret this. It's not only is it fulfilling for yourself, but professionally, there will never be anything better that you do. Having worked in multiple industries, I can't tell you how different it is, the way people will evaluate you in your workplace when you have this type of background. You're in the know. I mean, you know how things work, how products work. Everything is becoming digitalized, and being able to speak that language will literally carry you across any industry that you want to work for, and in almost any position that you would look to work at. So again, my advice is don't hesitate. If there's one thing I wish I could do, I wish I could go back before I started college and went to school for programming. But rather than reflecting on that, I just decided I'm not going to waste any more time, and I signed up for New York Code and Design Academy as soon as I could. And I'm thankful for every minute that I had in that curriculum.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm so glad. It sounds like you guys both had such positive experiences, and yeah, congrats on graduating and getting through the program. And yeah, that's all my questions. So all the best for the future for both of you. Jeff, hope your job continues to go well, and David, good luck for your future. Hope you find something you really love. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and yeah, good luck.
Thank you very much.